We're on Fidelity Street right now, and if you can see behind me, it's still a very active crime scene. Right now, over my shoulder, we see a number of state troopers and detectives and police combing through several of the yards, apparently looking for evidence. You wouldn't believe how generous folks have been. Let's take a look at this trailer right here. If you look inside, there's lots of items here that are all being sent to those who need it most. We have things that were donated from toothpaste. A little bit of preventative maintenance throughout the year, like keeping your unit clean, can save you thousands of dollars in the long run. The busiest mailing day of the year sees the Postal Service processing more than 800 million pieces of mail, which is 40% more than what they process in a typical day. Steve, if you look on air and online, some of the reporting for, especially on the national scene, are folks that aren't familiar with Bryan College Station as we are, living here, working here. There's been a lot of misinformation on this taking place on campus. If you do a Google search or internet search, you can find so many instances of it being called a Texas A&M campus shooting, a Texas A&M gunman. It's easy to see why pedestrians have to step off the curb. Here at the corner of University and College, Maine, the sidewalk is only 60 inches wide. John, the skyline of College Station will soon be changing, and this is a sign of what is to come. Crews from Precision Demolition have been here at the Plaza Hotel all this week, making plans to implode one of the tallest buildings in town.
And Clay, you were one of the first reporters on scene, and you were out on the street before even having to evacuate.
That's right, John and Meredith, and we just were able to get closer in. We're on Fidelity Street right now, and if you can see behind me, it's still a very active crime scene. Right now, over my shoulder, we see a number of state troopers and detectives and police combing through several of the yards, apparently looking for evidence, perhaps ammunition and casings, but they've been here for the last couple of moments now, combing through here, about a dozen or so officers. For me, the most sobering part of the story was hearing all those gunshots as it happened, and now knowing the tragedy that followed. It was also shocking to be on scene talking to residents as gunfire erupted just down the street.
The guy came out of this corner house, and he was being evicted, and the constable came to evict him.
Chaos in College Station as a gunman opens fire on a Brazos County constable and others.
Again, some more shots.
They're shooting right now.
Yeah.
News 3 was just blocks away when we heard reports.
And he shot the constable apparently 5 times.
Of an officer down.
From what I've heard, and he was laying down on the street dead, and the guy, the shooter, took all the constable's ammo.
Looking for the house on Fidelity Street, suddenly we heard a gunshot and realized we were just a few houses away when police and firefighters warned us to get further away.
Oh, he had several automatic weapons, apparently.
There's a guy inside a house shooting a shotgun at a police officer. That's about all I know.
Okay, and is your mom held up inside right now?
Well, she's held up in her vehicle on Fidelity Street.
Lauren Naylor was anxious speaking with his mother, who was trapped in her car 2 houses down with a firefight in progress.
Sounds like you're over in Iran, you know.
We heard at least half a dozen rounds while speaking with Rafael Trujillo.
2 officers down and the perpetrator, whoever it is.
Cones are still keeping the public back this afternoon, and we can see SWAT teams still monitoring the perimeter several hours after the shooting happened. Worried residents here are still wondering who the shooter was.
They stormed the house,
That's what I thought.
and I think they've got him.
Thomas McNutt lives a few houses down and heard firsthand what happened from a friend.
They had a shootout across the street. Finally, they shot the shooter. Life is precious. Pretty crazy.
And you can see behind me, the investigators are getting closer to us right now, checking out the grass right in front of us. Now, the investigation continues as we work to get a closer picture at who the shooter and these victims are. Reporting live in College Station, Clay Falls, News 3.
All right, thanks, Clay.
People are heading from miles around to survey what appears to be tornado damage in Snook, including Rebecca McCarty, who grew up just down the road from here.
Yeah, there's tin everywhere in the trees and garbage and just pretty much a mess.
7 FedEx trailers were smashed and in pieces around a pecan tree pasture, while workers made repairs to the roof of the FedEx warehouse here at County Road 269 and FM 50. Nearby business Sarah's sustained damage too. Officials believe the tornado brought winds between 80 and 110 miles an hour, and amazingly, no one was injured in the storm here in Burleson County.
We've dodged a bullet. This is our 2nd tornado in 11 days with no injuries and no deaths, and we're very fortunate in that respect.
On the edge of town, Nancy Unick was checking on her 80-year-old mom's house as crews cleared giant trees that had fallen onto the roof. Luckily, her mom was in Houston with them when the storm hit.
Yeah, it's an old house and that wood is hard
hard, and that a normal roof that would have caved in, but I don't think it's just superficial damage.
The dangerous winds demolished garages and storage sheds and toppled other towering trees too. Rebecca McCarty's dad, Frank Floyd, hid in his closet when the destruction began outside.
I heard all kind of clattering going on outside and pieces of tin flying everywhere from the garage, from the barn, and boards flying and stuff like this, and it was scary for about 5 minutes.
Within minutes, his chicken house and sheds were reduced to rubble.
You know, it came out good. The good Lord was with me.
A scene these residents hope doesn't return. In Snook, Clay Falls, News 3.
He likes dancing cages.
Meet Cruz. He's an energetic pit bull terrier that loves people, that's also deaf.
And he has a sweet disposition, so we're looking forward to the trip.
Cruz, like many of us, has had some travels this month. A few days back, he disappeared from his family's yard in Oklahoma City. Somehow, some way, he wound up at the Bryan Animal Center after he was picked up in town.
They had just rescued him from a shelter in Oklahoma City. They put him out in the backyard, and he disappeared and found his way to Bryan. So we feel like Santa Claus.
Bryan City Council member Ann Horton, her husband and daughter were planning on going to Oklahoma City to see family and wanted to help. While they don't know exactly how Cruz got down here to Bryan, the Horton family's making sure he's back in Oklahoma in time for Christmas. They left Thursday morning on the homeward bound journey of more than 350 miles back to the Sooner State.
Well, I let him out there in my backyard for like 10 minutes. I go back and check on him, and he is gone.
Cynthia Rodriguez looked for Cruz for 2 hours after he disappeared with no luck. A few days later, she got a phone call.
I said, where are you? Where are you so I can go pick him up? And she was like, well, I'm in Texas. I said, wow, how did he get over there?
Since she, her 4-year-old daughter Kimberly, and husband couldn't come down to Texas, the Hortons came to her.
I'm Sarah.
I think it's just, one of those warm, fuzzy Christmas stories, and we're just happy that we get to be a part of it.
Yeah, he's back. Thank God. And he's so happy to be back with us. Yes! It's going to be a nice Christmas for us this year.
A Christmas with Cruz. In Bryan, Clay Falls, News 3. Yeah, Daniel, more than 1,000 people from as far away as Michigan filled the Centerville High School auditorium today. It's a story of sadness, but also joy remembering Leona's hometown hero. And while Sergeant Wade Wilson only lived on this earth 22 years, he lives on in the memories of those who knew him. It's a life that touched not only those of Leon County, but across the state and even the far corners of the world. Marine Sergeant Wade Wilson of Leona was killed during combat May 11th while on duty in Helmand Province, Afghanistan. We're told his actions saved 2 fellow Marines. Pastor Joe Dacus of Leona Baptist Church spoke of Wilson's faith in Christ and heart for service.
He says the true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him.
Corey Boudier has been best friends with Wade since first grade.
Don't discredit his death by, saying that we shouldn't be over there. That was his choice, and he was completely devoted to the cause. He doesn't. That's not how he felt. He wanted to do his job, and he did his job.
During the memorial, State Senator Steve Ogden and Representative Marva Beck presented the family with a flag that had flown on top of the state capitol in the Marines' memory. Following the service at Centerville High School, a sea of cars and Patriot Guard motorcycles escorted the casket to Evans Chapel Cemetery outside Leona, with hundreds lining the streets as the procession passed through his hometown.
This is what we do. We're patriots, and we're honoring our son that was fallen in Afghanistan.
Janice Hayes and friends waved flags in show of support. She is close friends with Wilson's grandparents.
Yes, you just had to be here to appreciate the emotion and the crowd. This auditorium holds 704 people. It was full. They were lined up around the sides, out in the parking lot listening on the radio. This is just a testimony to this young man.
A young man who gave it all with a county, state, and nation forever grateful.
He's looking down and smiling right now, and loving the attention. And he wants us to be happy. He wouldn't want us to be around mourning his death.
Sergeant Wade Wilson joined the Marines at the age of 17 and was on his second tour of duty in Afghanistan. He is survived by his mom and dad, step-parents, and more than half a dozen siblings. Daniel.
Thank you very much, Clay.